Well, hello there, everybody. I was actually reading and just getting into good music. Welcome, everybody. It's Thursday. Thank you for tuning in and being a part of this journey. Uh, Speaking favor over us all, nothing missing, nothing broken. You got to speak it in order to have it, possess it. You know, Confession leads to possession. Yeah, Anyway, so how are y'all? Thank you, Ariel. What a very kind statement, my dear. Thank you. Good to see you. Zara, good to see you, and Sean and Joyce Marie and Deborah. How are you? Grace, what's up? Michelle, good to see you. Bonnie and Dave, what's up? Good to see all of you. Thank you for being a part of this. You are the reason that I do this. Well, also, I do it for myself. It's always a pleasure to be reading all the time and learning. And yeah, that's how I hang on it. So, how are y'all doing? Saw a huge turkey in our backyard. Big turkey. I mean, big. Yeah, good omen, they say. I don't know. Um, I like what a person wrote me and said, I get the whole evocation. Well, why don't they have a revocation? Good point. We'll be getting back with you on that. Yeah. I mean, if you walk through the door, make sure it's not one way. You know, I like the restaurant swinging kitchen doors. Yeah. Because that tells you there's always a way to come back. Yeah. Put that rope around your ankle. Yeah. And then if the bell stops, you done screwed up. Uh-huh. Bizarre stuff, bizarre stuff. So we're going to get right into it because we're not going the book that we're studying, this one, is well, it gets into some really, really stuff that, public is just not ready to consume. And the group that has emailed me, we'll get together and talk about that. It's very interesting. And we're going to get into a little preview of the next book we're going to get into, and that's the legacy, the key, what the devil has bequeathed to us, mankind. We're animals. We're classified as animals. They say we're at the top, but I don't know. Bipedals, I don't know. When you look at quadrupedals, I think quadrupedals have certain distinct advantages. But anyway, I digress. Um, so here's the question. Is God a being who only came from one single region of the world, the planet, with only one individual? The whole thing I was thinking this morning, I was looking at the Golden Dawn. It's a great reference book, how I look at it. But my single issue with the Kabbalah, the Golden Dawn, Crowley, um, is that the magic, which is real, is all predicated upon the construct of this single entity who ignored all the rest of the planet, the original people. I mean, all over the world, civilizations, cultures, far older, far advanced than this one small geographical area of the planet. I can't accept that. And that's part of the problem I have with much of what you would call the Enochian magic, even with chaos theory. It's all predicated upon the being and then the cast of characters underneath. And it doesn't make sense. mean, if you have a demon, we're going to be talking about the 11 monsters that Tiamat created, which you could probably say were the 11 lords, overlords, whatever. But the point being that it restricts the whole concept. I can't accept it in the fact that if Magick is centered in upon this with all the associated sub-characters, you know, you got the angels, the demons, the whole bit. Maybe it's just me, but it seems finite. And that can't be what a god is. It just can't be. So, having said that, the next question then becomes, well, magic does exist. We're about to read it that even this God of the Bible talks about magic. That's curious. We read yesterday how magic, spell casting. You know, there's some beliefs that, by the way, if you can see my image, I'm putting you under a spell, or I'm already under a spell. If you take that approach, then we're all under a spell of some kind. Because if it's controlled by what can only be described as an egregore, it's a thought form. It says it takes no physical shape, that it speaks. And, you know, that's the thing. When God said, what was he saying? Was he using English? Was he singing for the hearing impaired? Or was he giving sign language? You know, what the hell? What do you mean? You said. If there's nothing there, then to whom are you saying this? And how does out of the nothingness produce something that is directly opposite of the nothingness? But again, who hears it? And so if it can't be heard, how can you say it's a word? How can you say it was a spoken word? How can you say that it altered the natural course of nature itself? So, leading with that, hey, Robert Scott, how are you doing? Much respect, my friend. Elderberry, good to see you as well. Paul, Joe, and Lynn. I know Gogo is in there. Hello, Gaia, as well. Loretta. So, I want to get a little preview of what we're going to get into next week. I have some guests coming on next week as well. I'll get into that. Was going to have Kaz on tomorrow, but I'm not sure I'm going to be able to be on. So I wanted to make sure, Kaz, that when I do that, you know, we're both going to be here. So this is going to be the book we're going to get into next, called The Devil's Legacy to the Earth Mortals. And the first, what you haven't read, and it is so interesting how it positions magic, witches, etc. So we always hear about the devil. The devil is the antithesis of God. It is the antithesis of good. It is the antithesis of life. I mean, you can just say it is the anti-word. Basically, what the devil is. Don't know if you ever thought about that, but if there was a word that was spoken, then there would have to be the antithesis of the word. Anti-word. Wow, think about that one, folks. All right. So we're getting ahead into this book, and you'll see it next week when we get into it. We'll read, oh, I've seen that, but I wanted to bring this out. So, compacts with the devil. How do you sell your soul? Do you have to sell your soul in order to have a contract, a covenant? Because that's what a compact is. It's a covenant with the Dark Lord. I mean, does your soul really have to be bartered into that? Do you even have the ability to barter your soul? That's the next question. Think about it. So you got this contract. Now, as we've already discussed, we know I come from a religion, Christianity, where it's a contract. You go through the whole legal process. So let's talk about making a deal with the devil. The power of those witches, and like I said, next week we're really going to get into the thing. It's very fascinating. As we find in their earliest records, or originated in their intercourse with familiar spirits, coitus. Now, is this physical sex? Can a spirit have sex with a physical being? Can a physical being have sex with a spiritual being? What say you? Invisible beings who must be supposed to be enlisted in the armies of the Prince of Darkness. We do not read in these ancient memorials of any league of mutual benefit entered into between the merely human party and his or her supernatural assistant. But modern times have amply supplied this defect. Did you see my first part, how we were talking about using the internet in casting spells? You can cast curses, and it's amplified. Very interesting. The witch or sorcerer could not secure the assistance of the demon, but by a sure and faithful compact, by which the human party obtained the industrious and vigilant service of his familiar spirit for a certain term of years, only on condition that, when the term was expired, the demon of undoubted right was to obtain possession of the indentured party and to convey him irremissibly and forever to the regions of the damned. You know, when I read that, I go, how bad do you really want something? And there are people who will literally, if they could, sell their soul, their mother, everything else to obtain what they want. Typically, it's fame, fortune, power. I mean, you name it. Yeah. What was it? The brother, how art thou, brother? The one with Clooney, and I love it where they picked up the guy in the crossroads out there in Tennessee, and you know, he was a black dude, and he said, you know, I play this guitar. He said, well, how'd you start? He said, well, I met with the devil here last night, and he appeared to me, brought me this guitar, and I sold my soul to learn how to play this guitar. And Clooney says, well, what would make you ever want to sell your soul? And I love what the guy says. He says, wasn't doing me any good. So anyway, whatever. The contract was drawn out in authentic form, signed by the sorcerer and attested with his blood. There we go. This whole blood thing we're going to get into. I mean, yeah. And was then carried away by the demon to be produced again at the appointed time. To deny the possibility, nay, actual existence of witchcraft and sorcery is at once flatly to contradict the revealed Word of God. In various passages, both of the Old and New Testament, and the thing itself is a truth to which every nation in the world has in its turn borne testimony, either by examples seemingly well attested, or by the prohibitory laws which at least suppose the possibility of commerce with evil spirits. Blackstone's book on commentaries, book 4, chapter 4, page 61. An anonymous 17th century writer reasons as follows: to know things aright and perfectly is to know the causes thereof. A definition does consist of those causes which give the whole essence and contain the perfect nature of the thing defined. Where that is therefore found out, there appears the very clear light. If it be perfect, it is much the greater, though if it is not fully perfect, yet it gives some good light. For which respect, though I dare not say I can give a perfect definition in this matter as to what a witch is. Yet, which is hard to do even in known things, because the essential form is hard to be found. Yet I do give a definition which may at the least, give notice and make known what manner of persons they be of whom I speak. Who is he speaking about? A witch. A witch is one that worketh by the devil, or by some devilish or curious art, either hurting or healing. Well, doesn't God do that as well? Revealing things secret and foretelling things to come. Isn't that what God does? And with prophets, prophetesses, prophetic word, we got a whole freaking book based on this. But in this case, if it comes from witchcraft, a witch or witchcraft, which there are male witches, yes, which the devil has devised to entangle and snare men's soul withal into damnation. Now, all of this is predicated upon Dante, this guy who writes this, and it completely altered the narrative. But we find out that the narrative may have only been altered in a slight degree, and it gets into that. The conjurer, the enchanter, the sorcerer, the diviner, and whatsoever other sort there is, are indeed encompassed with this circle. The devil does, no doubt, after diverse forms, deal in these. But no man is able to show an essential difference in each of them from the rest. I hold it that no wisdom or labor well spent to travel much therein. One artificer had devised them all. Anyway, y'all gonna love it. And it gets in from there. Yeah, you're really going to enjoy this book. I think we all are. So let's kind of get in. We're not going to probably finish this chapter completely. And I encourage you, if you want the PDF, let me know. If you want to actually have the book in your library, and I do add this into my library of grimoires, which it's like playing with your favorite pinball game. It's like, yeah, I like that one. Anyway, let's continue. So we find out that these monsters are various degrees of animal, human, unseen forces, etc. We pick up. From magical perspective, they constitute the 11 dark and destructive powers of Tiamat, and several of them may be also compared to the qualipic forces of the quabalistic tree of night. The quabalistic tree of night. There we go. However, it would be rather artificial and limited if we tried to fit each of them into a concrete qualific level. Their powers are too complex and their nature too chaotic to form an initiatory map of spiritual progress. As the Quabalic tree is understood by occult practitioners, there is even possibility that the story might be read in a literal way, and that the monsters of Tiamat represents particular aspects of spiritual warfare. Weapons. If you have a spiritual warfare going on, and if you're talking about potential weapons, so can mortal men obtain these weapons? Do we have the ability or the whereabouts, the capacity to be able to encompass a weapon that was made for the gods? And that's indeed what they are. Monsters are not. Yeah. I kind of look at the God of the Old Testament as a monster. I mean, I don't see that dude like I used to see that dude. Anyway, I digress. Uh, says this is also how these primal forces manifest most frequently in the rites of magic. Again, these are what I call golden nuggets because I pick up on this and I'm going, interesting. So they're talking about the primal forces, I mean, the elementals, and they manifest. It's what that says. They manifest as a type of weapon. They're a primal force, manifest most frequently in the rites of magic. Modern practitioners can successfully use them for magical attack and defense. Listen up, everybody. This is interesting. But their dissolving and venomous powers can also be employed in works of initiatory alchemy and used for self-empowerment. It is possible that a few of them might have connection to astrology indeed, which was suggested by historians and researchers of the Babylonian magic and mythology. The historical sources, however, are not unanimous in their interpretation of particular creatures. A chosen monster in one book is described with qualities which in another source are attributed to a completely different entity. That's the problem. We don't have a deck of cards. It's like, this is the ace, this is the, and you're going like, okay, I can, we got cards, granted, but you get into this long enough and you become one that it's not that you're, how should we say, so hardened, but you become more questioning. Skeptical could be a word. I mean, it's hard to take the word of something you cannot describe, you have not seen, and you don't know. But you're taking that word as fact. That's why we do these studies that we do here. Because we're all on the same path. It's like, what was that again? All right. Also, the results from practical work and magical research confirms the suggested attributes in several cases, but differ considerably in many others. But then again, we should stress that the usual attributes were attached to the creatures on the basis of linguistic analysis of the words used in the Elish. In this book, we will broaden this perspective and present unknown aspects of the mighty 11, which were lost over the ages, but can still be accessed by the modern practitioner. And why would they not? Mankind may have lost the knowledge, but I got an idea it was never completely lost. I saw Lucky write a comment, and it's true. It's not, I don't believe it's ever been lost ever. I mean, if we did not have the written word before we existed, meaning we existed before we had the ability to write our words, then it meant that we spoke the word and the spoken word was then repeated. It would have been also the process of how you would cast a spell, but that's how it was passed down. Of course, the chain of custody becomes very important then. That's the problem with today. You can't authenticate the complete chain of custody. There are gaps. We continue. But were these entities really lost and their powers forgotten? I don't think so. To answer this question, we have to take a closer look at Mesopotamian myths and legends that follow the original story of creation. As we already observed, the 11 monsters of Tiamat were bound and included in the New World structure of Marduk, and thus forced to serve the gods of light. From then on, they were believed to exist as signs of the zodiac, as constellations, stellar forces, and servants to the gods and guardians of their temples. Because again, if we go back to what I said when we first started this, are you telling me that this is from one culture? And in this case, the Babylonian culture, which, you can either do as the Hebrews, as they date the year. I think it's what is it, 3756? Maybe off on that, but somewhere right around. That's when they said that the world began. Well, I don't think we can, everyone's entitled to their beliefs, but I don't believe that. I also don't believe that Marduk and Tiamat, with the constellations, were then again a Middle Eastern construct. Because we seem to have the zodiac, the constellations, as part of all cultures, even down to the Aboriginal people, the original people. Then we got the Mesoamerican culture, dates way back, the Incas, the Mayans. The whole time you had the Far East. So I have to balance that with this, but okay. One could say that the Babylonian culture was a direct recipient of a time where the connection with the Far East was already well established. And then you got the whole Tower of Babel thing, but anyway, I'm just babbling. I crack myself up. Yet, there are enough references to demons, evil spirits, malevolent creatures, and unquieted souls to prove. Now, that's an interesting term. Unquieted souls. Poltergeists? I don't know. To prove that not all of them were bound and subjected to the rule of the gods. Primal forces. I call upon thee, and you can go forth by the word of my power. And, if you're in, anyway, they haunt places where the veil between dimensions is thin, lurking behind the gates of the night, lying in wait for the doorways to open and let them into the world of man. Is this through our dreams? Is this at the 3 o'clock hour? The witching hour? They roam across deserts and wastelands, appear in desolate and abandoned sceneries, and dwell in the bowels of the earth or on top of mountains. These dark realms, inhabited by demons and monsters, are identified with the Qiliphoth from the Kabbalistic legends, the abode of all evil in the world. These hordes and legions of fiends dwell in the womb of the night, between spaces and dimensions, and each day they breed more horrors, waiting to invade the world and to destroy it, so that the primal chaos will reign once again. Doesn't the book of Ecclesiastes say, that which is shall yet be again? That which was shall yet be again. There's nothing new under the sun that has not been known to man. Ancient mythologies are full of legends of serpents and dragons dwelling beneath the earth or among the stars, of primordial beings and entities that existed before the creation of man, of monsters born in the womb of chaos. I have no doubt. I've told you this before, and it's actually in the book of Ezekiel. I said once Isaiah, it was Ezekiel, where it talks about a time of great cities. The earth was undulating, and it was before the time of man. Clearly indicating through some ancient knowledge that was passed down that, hey, you guys are kind of the Johnny-come-lately on the spot. There was someone before you. There's going to be someone after you. Get used to it. Damn. There are also mythological serpents that personify the primordial chaos itself, boundless darkness existing outside the structures of the world, encircling the universe and holding the earth in their timeless coils. The Scandinavian Jormungandr, for instance, coils around the Midgard and the world of man, while the Hindu serpent Sesha floats in the cosmic ocean, forming the bed of Vishnu, one of the supreme gods in the Hindu religion. Sesha is the king of the Nagas, the snake people, who were ancient deities depicted as snakes, primal beings of creation. It is believed that when the serpent uncoils, time moves forward and universes are created. When he coils back, worlds cease to exist. A similar function is attributed to the Egyptian serpent Mihin, who coils around the sun god Ra to protect him on his journey through the ocean of night. He is called the Encircler, the believed to be the most ancient one, the primal serpent god who comes from primordial times before the creation of mankind. Now, if our ancestors believe this, you have to give it serious legitimacy. And why wouldn't there be something greater than ourselves? We're such egotistics. We think that the whole universe revolves around us and the heaven and hell was created for us. And that's really the epitome of an egomaniac. How dare humans really think? They think that do you really think we're all that? Because the only reason for heaven or hell is because for our benefit. No one else would have any reason for it. We created it, which tells me that there's thing that we're in that we think is life is actually death. I think that this is the realm of temporal perpetual death. We have to go through it in order for the purification process, because indeed, if we were created after the fact, then we had to have come from somewhere. And as yesterday we discussed, it appears we came from the gods themselves. It's blood. Mesopotamian myths and legends contain many references to demons and evil spirits whose nature seems primal, amorphous, and chaotic. These spirits are the wide-spreading clouds which darken the day, and storms and winds that cannot be withstood. They bring terror and gloom upon the world, wreak havoc and destruction across the fields, and slay humans and animals alike. You know, right there it says we're nothing more than slaves. Slaves have no value. They dwell beneath the mountain of sunset, behind the gates of the night, in caverns of the earth, and in the desolate places. They have no name and are unknown in heaven and earth. In accounts gathered from the tablets, they are mentioned as evil spirits, tornadoes, hag demons, plague gods, ghosts, devils that lie in wait in the desert, bad winds, the evil eye that brings sickness upon men, or demon harlots who steal the semen to engender demons and haunt the houses of men to make them barren. All right, time out, everybody. Come on, we need a huddle right here. So, hey, I get it that, you know, everyone here, I know you got your own beliefs, but let's just talk about this. Does it seem like we're heavily outnumbered? Does it seem like this is the way it has always been? And what the fuck makes us think that we're so goddamn powerful now? Come on, we got to huddle. Because if we go back down the line, we're going to get our ass kicked. We best start coming up with some more solid plans here. I mean, if this is reality, I can take you and quote you in the Bible, chapter and verse, where it says the same thing. Can show you in the Quran, same thing. We read the Babylonian tumult. We found out what that so-called God, that one that everyone thinks the Christian God, what it really thinks of us Goyim. All right, go back to your own corner there. From the magical perspective, their powers manifest on both the microcosmic and the microcosmic level. They are the principles of primordial chaos which act against the divine order. I know what the order is. The divine order now against light, laws and regulations, civilization, religions, and foundations of the world of man. So wait a minute. Let's talk on this one again. So, so if we're questioning religions, laws, who made the law, what gave the person who made the law the authority to make the law, then are we already principles of the primordial chaos? Are we chaos? Is that what we do here? We cause chaos. There's another term we use, another idiom, shit disturbers. Wherever that group goes, they just stir up shit everywhere. I mean, so let's be honest. Is this what we are? Are we of an order? I don't know. It says against light. But everything I have read said that light was not in the beginning. Does it say in the beginning was light? No, doesn't say that anywhere. But yet, we use it so interchangeably that light is associated with good. We continue. But viewed as the chaos within, they also represent dark instincts, hidden lust, and savage urges that are atavistic, primal, inherent in the human soul, but repressed to the utmost regions of consciousness. Well, that's what it just said we are then. We are the children of chaos. That is who we came from. It would be, in essence, our creators. On the microcosmic level, they are the antinomian impulses which drive man towards individual isolation and self-deification. Is that what we're doing here? Are we self-deifying ourselves? If we use the term I, me, self, am I not elevating myself above God? They are the hurricane of change, the initiators of movement and evolution, the divine flame of becoming, manifestations of the primal draconian force underlying the whole of creation. Well, I guess they're going to label us with something. I have no problem with this. I mean, at least we can trace our ancestry now, right? I don't need no damn tree. I can tell you where I came. Yeah. In Mesopotamia lore, however, these demons and evil spirits are also thought to act against man, and their destructive powers are believed to cause weakness, divided peace or disease, and death. They bring headaches, fever, pain, dysentery, tumors, ulcers, leprosy, seizures, and agony. They make men and women barren, slaughter people, and tear out their hearts. They can set the house on fire, make crops wither, and bring sickness to animals. These descriptions have great resemblance to the powers of the mighty 11, as they are revealed in this grimoire. By means of malevolent magic, they can be bound to do the sorcerer's bidding and to destroy the chosen target. Among the works of malediction, the Assyrian formulas given in the Chaldean Magick, its origins and development list the following manifestations of a demonic attack. Painful disease of the bowels, the infirmity which makes gloomy and cuts, that which acts in the mouth, the poisonous noxious to the voice, the exportation of the consumption which noxiously prostulates. Scofola postulates falling off of the nails, petulant eruptions, invertebrate tetters, shingles causing pits and scars, leprosy covering the skin, food which reduces the body of man to a skeleton, food which eaten is returned again, liquids which make the drinker swell, fatal poison, the pestilential wind which comes from the desert and returns not, the frost which makes the earth to shiver, the excess of heat which makes the skin to crack, evil destiny which unexpectedly cuts off a man's career. Well, damn. Okay. And why us? I often think this is all these beings have got to do. Well, no wonder they keep us suppressed. No wonder they keep us mentally retarded. No wonder they're not going to let us get too old. They're afraid of us. And so they're going to kick our ass every chance they get. Well, you know, I saw the 90 episodes of Rocky. Still think the first one was the best, second one maybe. But you know what? You may think you got me down, but that ain't ever going to be. I'll make you the clown. Yeah. These maledictions and many others are taught by the particular demons of the mighty 11 when they are called to manifestation through the rites of evocation. In Akkadian and Assyrian spells, incantations, and exorcisms, they are attributed to the works of evil spirits known as the Uduk, the Ali, the Gigam, the Telal, the Galu, the Maskum. These entities are described as phantoms, specters, vampires, incubi, succubi, nightmares, and spirits that can be bound by wicked sorcery to work evil against another human being. Now, didn't Solomon bind all these chief demons and had them build the temple for his God? Huh. I don't know. Tell-all, the bull demon, is possibly a form of the Kuskaraku, the bison man, from the Tiamat legend, but also the other beings are highly reminiscent of the mighty 11. Many of them seem to have primal nature, and their work is directed against the cosmic order. They ravage the heaven and the earth, disturb the stars of the sky, and interpret the movement of planets, producing the evil command which comes from the mist of heaven, the evil destiny which issues from the depths of the abyss. Okay, I'm going to stop here and look at this one. So, this chaos that they cause, it comes from the mist of heaven. So, I'm trying to interpret this. Is this of the upper reaches of the firmament? Looking at this in the ethereal, then which level of heaven are we talking about? The evil destiny which issues from the depths of the abyss. Wow. The whole world trembles at their wickedness. Well, I would, yeah. And they can even threaten the gods. Well, a bunch of badasses, ain't they? In exorcisms and incantations, it is usually Marduk, the chief of all gods, who is called to protect man from their malevolent work. Once, one of the incantations quoted by Floresios Lenormant, in his Chaldean Magick provides an interesting example of their attack. Well, let's read this. The execrable Adapa acts upon the head of man, the malevolent Namtar upon the life of man, the malevolent Utuk upon the forehead of man, the malevolent Ali upon the chest of man, the malevolent Gigam upon the bowels of man, the malevolent Tilal upon the hand of man. Son of a bitch. Those beings are believed to be wicked and evil by nature and bad in themselves. I kind of wonder, so who creates these things? I read how they come about, but I mean, it had to be, that's why I don't believe perfection exists. I mean, if you've got a being who's thinking this kind of crap, I mean, no, I ain't buying it. They feed on blood and bow to no gods. I swear. Woo, these are some badasses. They manifest as winds whose burning breath favors the development of disease, evil spirits of deserts and wilderness who torment mankind, dwellers of bleak summits of mountains, pestilential marshes, and sea demons and monsters. Wow. Okay. I mean, do you think we're outnumbered in this thing? I mean, it's just like, what? It was thought that the Utuk inhabits the desert, the Moss dwells in the heights, the Gigam, wanders the desert, and the Telal steals into town. Their original abode, however, is the desert, and the exorcisms are used to send them back to their place of habitation. Now, this is also repeated in the book of Matthew in the New Testament. When Jesus cast out the devils, his disciples asked, well, where do they go? And he said they go to the waterless places. Telling you, it's all interconnected. The desert in the lore of the Middle East seems to represent the original abyss, the birthplace and the abode of all demons and evil spirits of the world. What a refutation. A popular practice in Mesopotamia was to avert the bad influence of one demon by using a talisman or a statue of another. Hence, the images and sculptures of demons and monstrous beasts were placed on the doors, above entrances, and by the sides of the gates. Now, isn't it interesting that when the destroyer came through Egypt, what did the angel tell the Hebrews? By that time, they were the children of Israel. Yeah, slaughter the lamb. It's the blood thing again. And then with the hyssop, you put the blood on the doorpost and the doorway. And so when the destroyer came through, it would move on. You tell me that ain't magic shit. Come on. It's everywhere. And I look back and when I play the data files in my head of everything I've learned, again, out of my former religion, I sit back sometimes just amazed. It's like, wow. Yeah, I read that. Yeah, I can quote it, but I really never knew what it meant until where I am now on this side of life. It was also believed that those guardians are real spirits, bound by spells and magic of the gods. Such was the case of the human-headed bulls that guarded the gateway to infernal regions of the Mountain of the Sunset. According to the same belief, demons or genies watched over heavenly spheres and boundaries between the realms of the divine order and the primordial ocean of chaos, which existed outside of the world created by the gods. These divine guardians were the said who was depicted as a bull with a human face, Lammas, who was a lion with a man's head, Uster, picture of a human form in the Natig, which with the head of an eagle. In the Western lore, these entities would be later preserved as four symbolic creatures supporting the throne of Jehovah in the form of the so-called Tetromorph. When I read this and I go, man, yeah. Monsters and demons served as guardians of temples and were depicted on the doors, placed as statues, or carved on the walls, plaques, cylinders, and decorations. In the Sumerian temple of the Inannu, there were ornaments, as we continue, on the door in the shape of an idiom, the Eurydiuluma, or the raging lions. The Mussartor, i.e. serpents, and the Mushhas, terrible vipers and monsters. It is really interesting. So, in the Holy of Holies, which was done in solid gold, you have the inscriptions, you have the pomegranates, but then you got these angelic beings with these wings that went for like 22 feet long. It's quite fascinating. Interpretations. Because an angel can also, lore says, can become hideous. Clay plaques from the Akkadian period contain depictions of gods fighting monsters and demons, such as the fiery cyclops, dragons, serpents, lions, dragon serpents, winged beasts, etc. However, the primordial monsters were often depicted as companions, servants, and guardians of the gods. So this is Steiger's world here, Wayne's world coming in. I'm a god. So why wouldn't they be my servants, my companions, my guardians? If I have the blood of the gods in me, then what do I have to be afraid of? I think dragons are beautiful creatures. Got no problem with serpents. I mean, it's living proof that it was cursed. That's why curses are real. Could hear someone say, do you really believe that? Do I or do I not? The binary stones are the most characteristic monuments from the Kassite period, and they show Masusu, for example, as the dragon of Marduk, and the goatfish, which is probably a reference to the Kulalua, as the symbolic animal of the god, Ea. In depictions from the post-Kassite Babylonian, we can also see the bull and the lightning. The bull might refer to the Kusaraku and the lightning bolt of the symbolic of the weather demons as the emblems of the storm Adad. The epithet of Adad was also the great radiant bull, and he was pictured as a warrior wearing a helmet with bull horns, possibly an attribute acquired from the primordial dragon god. Bulls, dragons, and lions also appear as ornaments on Nebuchadnezzar's Ishtar Gate in Babylon, along with the processional way constructed in the 6th century BCE. Mususuyu, who became the dragon of Marduk, was usually depicted as a hybrid creature that was scaly coat with the head bearing the double horns of the Arabian horned viper. The front legs of the creature were feline, and the hind legs resembled the limbs of the bird of prey, and the tail terminated in a scorpion sting. It is also worth noticing that the scorpion man was a popular entity in the Babylonian and Assyria. It was often depicted on reliefs as well as on binary stones, the most famous of which is the image of the creature that had the torso, head, and arms of a human, the lower body of a scorpion, and was aiming with its bow and arrow. Scorpion men, and remember, didn't Dwayne Uh, the Rock, you playing the first one, the Scorpion Man, something like that. Anyway, it's interesting. This is where the writers got the story from. Um, the Scorpion Men, again, were popular guardians and openers of the way to the underworld. In the legend of Gilgamesh, they guarded the gates of the land of the Kur at the mountains of Mashu, through which the sun god Shamash traveled at night. They are demonic and fearsome. Their heads touch the sky. Their glance is death. The scorpion was also the symbol of the goddess Ishkara and represented the constellation and the zodiac sign of Scorpio. Ishkara was sometimes described as the scorpion goddess herself, or the many-breasted mother scorpion who dwelt among the stars and nourished the souls of the dead with the milk from her breast. Her sacred animals were scorpions and the dragon. Wow. Oh, folks, I mean, where else are you going to get such stuff? I'm going to go a little bit further on this. Um, But there are also deities whose nature and attributes reflect the draconian aspect of the primordial chaos, the first dragon goddess. Among those worthy of special note is the goddess Nintu, sometimes identified with Ninhursag, who is associated with the creation of man from clay and blood. This is Enki and Enlil's mother, the geneticist. That's what she was. At least that's what the tablets say. The number of votive figures offered to her by women who desired offspring suggests that among the people of Mesopotamia, she occupied the position of the mother goddess. She was depicted with an elaborate tiara and veil, with a garment covering her loins, but she was uncovered above the waist, and sometimes she was pictured as suckling a child at the left breast. The upper part of her body was that of a naked woman, and the lower part of a scaly, like the skin of a snake, which represents her primordial draconian origin. And we all know the figurine. It is interesting to note that the form of a half woman, half snake is also often encountered among manifestations of serpent demons that belong to the 11 monsters of Tiamat. These entities usually appear in the female form, with snake or dragon scales, or with reptilian parts of the body. Nintu is possibly one of these primordial creatures, born in the womb of primordial chaos, but incorporated into the Babylonian pantheon and the new religious structures. The attributes of Tiamat, the first mother, were also preserved, and the powers and the attributes of other female goddesses, such as Ninhursag, Namtu, Belit, Ishtar, the Akkadian Belit, or Belit Lili, who also goes by Lady of the Gods, Lady of the Lower Abyss, Mother of the Gods, Queen of the Earth, and Queen of Fertility. These titles and functions belong to her, as well as to the other female deities who evolved on the concept of primordial humanity, which was the source of all life, originally called Tamti, the sea. And even though there are many exorcisms of evil spirits in Mesopotamia lore, there exists no exorcism of Tiamat, the primal dragon. She is the natural and indispensable part of the universe, and she cannot be banished, for the world would cease to exist without the dragon force that constitutes the flesh and the soul of all living beings. She is believed to sleep below the surface of the earth, not dead, but dormant, powerful, primal, fearsome, and very real. Her powers can be tapped and accessed by those who do not fear to open the gates of the night and to walk through those who are skillful in Rouse Leviathan. Wow. Okay. I mean, I just, like I said, there's probably about another hour or so of this, but if you want to read it, just email me. But you have to, and we may come back on this again somewhere in the future, just to pick up here in the description of Nintu. I mean, but wow. And, and what gets me when I read this is that it's amazing how the modern era has so removed the feminine, not to mention the divine feminine. The divine feminine is so-called, and I hear it all the time, well, it's in the noun or the noun of the word, and it means that's bullshit. If there's a female goddess, then bring it out. Don't make her an hermaphrodite. Don't make her androgynous. Apparently, she's not. Apparently, she's very much female. Always has been. Always will be. And while she rests, the male assholes are running amok, creating religions, requiring sacrifices, and this is the fucking Satanists, and these are the fucking Arians, the Christians, and all of them. It's all the same bullshit, the same story. I mean, I have to say, and this is no way a knock. I mean, in this one here, it's a nice little fairy tale. I mean, this person actually believes that they have been the incarnation of Lucifer. You see where it gets us? Now, we can't talk like this in all the groups, but with this one, I mean, you just got to say, well, then, all right. So this all must be modern lore. Modern man's creation. And I look at the condition of mankind. It's not working. Something is just not working. And I continue to say that, and I will continue to say that. It's not working. You got the right and the left blaming each other, and you got everyone has to have a position. Why? I can't see where either position has advantages to mankind at all. They're both, what you see today, they're both the same party of death. There's no freedom. There's no liberty. Magic should be the one thing that truly liberates the soul. But it's been so compromised, so corrupted, that it's no longer what it is supposed to be. And that's a huge issue for me. And so we'll continue to explore. We'll continue to go. And like I said, the group, we will get together on this one because there is some aspects of this. I mean, if these deities exist, and if these are really taking from, our ancestry, which apparently it does. Do you know what passing through the fire means? It's written in the Old Testament, particularly in the book of Deuteronomy. I think it's also Leviticus, and it talks about how our species has put, it's Baal worship, Moloch. But we do this. But the interesting thing is that these gods taught us, or at least taught the original of us, I think, the true magic, the true incantations, the true spells. Does that require blood? That's one of those questions you have to be really careful about because, it's quite interesting. I don't know. And it talks about in the book of Leviticus, that it's a sin, an abomination unto God, Jehovah, for you to put a tattoo on. Why? Because it's a bloodletting ritual. People don't like to hear that shit. Well, it's not my words. It's in the book, But then again, the great magicians, and did in fact use tattoos. They are strong sigils. And why would they not be? It's done by bloodletting. So let me know, everyone, how you feel on this. I mean, what is your take on this? If you have the right, if you know, for instance, a particular sigil that happens to be yours, you've identified with it, why wouldn't you put it on your body? I mean, and in the process of that, I don't know if many people think about it when they're getting a tattoo, but it's a strong invocation of magic if you're doing that. I mean, just tell it like it is. The truth be known, I have actually made contracts using my own blood, putting my print on that. And would you like to know what happened? It came to pass. Yeah. So, Robert Scott says, I wear mine with no intent. I love that, brother. That's what I'm. Hey, cheesesteak, what's up? Good to see you. Jan, how are you? She says, I protect my blood. No punctures allowed for any reason on this body. You know, and here's this thing, and I've said that I don't like the sight of blood. I just don't. I don't like, particularly when I see it's my blood. You know, I was bitten by a tick the other day. I was out on the property, and you know, we have these scrub cedar trees, and they're like tick magnets. And you know, and it always, you know, almost died because of a freaking tick bite. Uh, and again, it's this thing is that it's sucking my blood. You know, I don't like that. So anyway, but if I could find a way, like, you know, if I think about like a laser tattoo, you know, I don't know what that would look like, but anyway. Anyway, folks, Jan says neither. I just, like I said, I love some of the tattoos I've seen on people. I mean, there is like works of art. And I think about the dedication that that takes. I mean, it's something to be marveled at. But that's just me. I just I don't like needles either. I hate needles. I just when I was recovering from the meningitis and Lyme disease, I went through 11 lumbar punctures, spinal taps. And the doctor assistant made the mistake one time. And because I didn't look, you know, pretty well. I was out, you know, with Demerol and Vistaril, and because it really hurts. But I happened to look over on the table and looked at the size of a freaking needle. Oh, big mistake, man. I was like, say what? Joyce says, yeah, I had 3. They're not fun. They are not. 11 of them. I'm telling you, it just, and that just freaked my ass out. I saw that, and I'm seeing it right now again. All right, folks, I really went over. I'm going to try to be on tomorrow. And again, Kaz, that's why I didn't firm up our date. If I am, then okay, it's cool. If I'm not, you know, have yourself a good weekend. And I hope you've enjoyed this particular series. We may pick up back in the future the rest of it, because it's, well, not certain parts of this. That will be shared with the group, but the private group. Anyway, so I'll see you for sure on Monday. And I'll do my best. And then Kaz will get you on next week. And I have someone else. Jargo, thank you, brother. Right back at you, Rick. All right, folks. Far out stuff. I mean, just far out stuff.